We'll do a review in Likutei Sichas in Chelek Beis. We'll do the first part in the sicha of Chag HaShavuos. There's a few parts in there. We'll do first the first part. The Rebbe discusses the fact that Shavuos comes out in the month of Sivan, which is the third month from Nisan. The fact that it's the third month is not just by coincidence. The Gemara makes a big to-do about it because it says that it's the Torah, which is a Torah which is made up of three parts. Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim, Urion, Tli, Soi, was given on the month of Tlisoi. So that means the idea that it's three is significant. But the Rebbe wants to know, isn't one more seemingly appropriate for the unity of, especially Matan Torah, which unites a Yid with Hashem even more than the unity through mitzvahs? And here we're saying that it's the third, the number three. The Rebbe explains, when you only have one, that is not yet the true level of really yichud, the unity of Hashem, because you don't take into consideration that there could be something else and that might oppose this one. When you have three, that means you take the one and two and you create something new, a three, which is the highest level of unity, even higher than the level of one. One doesn't know that there is anything else, and therefore, when it comes to something else, it could be in opposition. It's not the real unity. Three means you take one and two together and you make out of them three, which is a higher level, as the Rebbe will explain in the sicha. Let's look inside. Chag HaShavuos. Aleph. Matan Torah is given in Chodesh Sivan. The Torah was given in the month of Sivan, which is Chodesh HaShlishi, that's the third month. Therefore is verstandig. So with this understood, as Torah is verbunden mit Shlishi. Torah is tied to the idea of three. Besides the fact, everything, especially when we talk about Torah mitzvahs, is bashgacha pratis. Everything is by divine providence. So the fact that it is on the number three, on the third month, has significance. Everything in the world has significance when they come together, especially with Torah mitzvahs. But here it's very clearly in the Gemara, Gefinnen mir, in the words of our sages of blessed memory, Gefinnen mir dem Verbund von Chodesh HaShlishi mit Matan Torah. We find the connection, the tie from the third month with the giving of the Torah, Mefoirash in Divrei Razal. It is very explicit in the words of our sages of blessed memory that they make a point that this is the third, something to do with the number three. As the Chazal tell us, Urion Tlisoi, a Torah of three, of the three parts, to a nation that has three, which is the Kohanim, Levim, Yisraelim, and B'yarchat Liso on the third month, which means after Nisan, Iyar, and Sivan. So the fact that this is number three has significant. So it's basically comes after the first month, after the second month, then we get the third month. But it would seem like doing it on the first month would be advantageous. It represents more the idea of Torah, which is unity, even more the mitzvahs. Is nit verstandig, so it's not understood. Was is the Meilin Chodesh Shlishi Davke? What is the advantage, the greatness of the month, the third month specifically? Ubefrat, especially as the ganze Inyan von Torah, the entire what is Torah is doch zu mamshich megale sein in Welt dem Havaya Echad, is to bring down and to reveal in the world that Hashem is one. That's the Torah reveals the unity, the oneness of Hashem. So it's the number one that Hashem is only. Durch Torah achas, and we do this to the one Torah. One Torah tells us about the one Hashem. Is doch the Meile von Torah in Achdus, the Meile of Torah is in unity, nicht in Shloisha, not in three. I mean, just even though we quoted before, it's an Uriyant Liso, that it's a Torah of three, but it's made up of three sections, but it's one Torah. And why do we emphasize the third month, the number three? And the Rebbe says, especially when we talk about Torah versus mitzvahs, Torah is even a greater unity with Hashem than the level of mitzvahs. So Torah, which is Matan Torah, that's the time, should be seemingly in one, not in three, not in the third month. Nochmer. The Shayches from Chodesh Hashlishi is Be'ikir to Torah. The connection of the third month is mainly to Torah. It's not saying, well, the mitzvahs were given, the mitzvahs that are in the Torah were given on the Shlishi. They weren't, that's not the connection. The connection has to do specifically when the Torah, the Luchas were given. The Torah was given on Shavuos. That's a special emphasis, is specifically Torah. Is be'ikir to Torah. It's mainly through Torah, with the Lashon Razal, as the language of our sages of blessed memory. Uriyant Liso. Uriyant means the teaching of Torah, the Torah part of Torah, not the mitzvahs, the Torah. B'yarchul b'yarchet Liso on the third month. And the reason why is this specifically Torah, but the mitzvahs are part of the Torah as well. In the Torah, it tells us about the mitzvahs, but mitzvahs were performed beforehand as well. But Torah is something which came down over there anew. Mitzvahs zane given euch far matan Torah. Mitzvahs also were there before the Torah was given. As the mitzvahs, with the mitzvahs b'nei Noach, there are mitzvahs of the Noachite laws, mitzvahs mila, the mitzvahs of circumcision, and the mitzvahs shenitztavu b'morah. And then before they came to Mount Sinai, and before they came, before Matan Torah, there was already, when the Yidden camped in Morah, Kasher Tzivcha Hashem Elokecha, we say in Morah Shom Som Loichoik Umishpat B'Shom Niso, that refers to some laws of Shabbos, and Mekibud Abaim. There's different mitzvahs that were already given. So we have mitzvahs before Matan Torah. Now, that doesn't mean that they're the same level as the mitzvahs after Matan Torah. Although they are all not the same, they're not equal. Afilu to the Zelba mitzvahs. Even the same mitzvahs, not the other mitzvahs, the same mitzvahs that we already did before Matan Torah, that we were commanded, have a much more powerful connection to Hashem when we do these same mitzvahs after Matan Torah. As they were given at Sinai. It's a much more powerful mitzvah. But yet, it's not something new. But that inyan for mitzvahs b'chlal al kol ponim, the idea of mitzvahs in general, at least there is the concept of mitzvahs, is given freya. That also took place before. So it's not the mitzvahs of Matan Torah. The main accomplishment is the Torah, that was the Iker Oiftu von Chag HaShavuos, Shebechodesh HaShlishi, the main novelty of this festival of Shavuos in the third month is given Matan Torah. Was the Torah, was given of the Torah. So what is the advantage of Torah over mitzvahs? And apparently, even though we say that Avraham Zokav Yeshiva, that it was the level of learning Torah before, but it was we can't even say that it's not compared that level, but this was a whole new idea of Matan Torah, giving the Torah. That was done by themselves. It's not the mitzvahs. Those mitzvahs that were actually commanded had the power of Hashem in those mitzvahs even before, not at the same level as after Matan Torah. But by Matan Torah, the level of Torah seems that was something totally renewed at the month of Shavuos. Now, when you compare mitzvahs to Torah, Torah is even a greater unity with Hashem. A mitzvah makes you a chariot to the will of Hashem, so that you subjugate it to Hashem. But Torah makes you one with Hashem. The Maila from Torah of mitzvahs, the advantage of Torah over mitzvahs, very declared in Tanya, is explained in Tanya. As durch mitzvahs wird man amer kovetzolakus, that through mitzvahs you become a chariot to godliness. What does it mean, a chariot? A chariot means a carriage that you're being led. You are subjugated to the one that leads you. Was merkove is bottled zum reicham. The carriage is subjugated to the one who rides it. So if you do mitzvahs, so you are subjugated, the rider is to the mitzvah, to Hashem who tells the mitzvah. Aber sie ist nicht ein Sach mit dem Reicham, but it does not become, it's not one item with the rider. That is by mitzvahs. Durch Torah aber, but when you study Torah, wird man vereinzigt mamash mit dem Eberstein. Over there, you become actually united with Hashem. So loidem is noch mehr nicht verstandig. According to this, it's even more not understood. Wie kommt es, was Torah? How come that Torah, through which, durch welchem and wird, ein Sach mit dem Eberstein, you become one with Hashem. It's not just a chariot like mitzvah, but here you becoming one with Hashem. Why was it given on the third month? What is the number 3? And the Rebbe explains in his base that really a real unity comes when there is another something else, and then you unite the other things to listen and to become subjugated, and you show that there is even a higher level, that there is no opposition, that it's really one and the same. So the number 3, when there is 2, and out of 2 you make 3, is a higher level of unity than just having 1. Let's look inside, base. The declaring davon is, the explanation of this is, der Tachlis is taka achdus und nicht shnius chas v'sholem. The ultimate goal is actually unity, one, not doubles. Just to be one, not doubles. Chas v'sholem, God forbid. So there's only one Hashem. There's no second, nothing secondary. But when is the real one? Then ober is the achdus an emeseh. But when is the unity a true unity? When is it really one? And it's been a tested unity. When you know of another existence, something else. Und von deswegen halt man bei Achdus Amitis, and yet you hold on, you hold by the true unity. That's the real unity. If you have no idea, you don't know at all of another existence, is noch kerayenit as the Achdus by welchem and halt is an emissary. That's not yet evidence that the unity by which you're holding is true. If you don't know about anything, you only know about one thing, then it doesn't mean that it's a true unity, that you have really related that this is the real unity in the way the unity of Hashem. Man weiß noch nicht, was wird mit ihm sein, because you don't know what will be with him when wird sich der Wissen von der zweiter Metzias. When you're going to find out, what will you be? What will be when you find out that there is something else, another Metzias. And the Rebbe brings the example when you want to test, like the father wants to test his son, the son of the king. He sends him away far from the palace to see even if he's not going to be in his presence, will he still stay strong? As it's known, the parable about the descent of the neshama below. So the Eibishter sends a neshama down into this world. The neshama above was perfect. It was holy. It was doing only the right things. But what does the Eibishter do? He sends the neshama down into this world. So you bring a parable from a son of a king. Was man will ausproven that you want to test him, wie stark is verbunden zu Melech, how strong is he tied to the king? Nimmt men ihm zu von dem Heichel HaMelech, then you take him away from the palace of the king. Man führt ihn weg in einen weiten Ort, and you lead him to a distant place. Zwischen niedrige Menschen amongst lowly people. Und wenn euch dort, and when also there, führt sich euch wie ein Ben Melech, there too, he conducts himself as royalty, as the son of a king. Zetman, then you see as Eddie is be'emes, that he's in truth, zugebunden to sein Taten, that he's truthfully tied to his father, the Melech, the king. So you see that when the neshama comes down into the world, if it can sustain its connection to its father, to the Eibishter, to Hashem, the neshama can overcome all the obstacles from the body in this world and all the temptations. Stay connected. So then you see that the neshama is truly connected to the Hashem, even in the face of all the obstacles, even in the face that it is in a lower place. By the minion, the similar is also by this idea that when there is only one, it's not yet proven. You need the two and withstanding, and then becomes the idea of three. When kommt in an Ort von Schnees, when you come to a place where there is seconds, it's in a place where they don't just hear the unity of Hashem. You come across, you meet up with an opposite matter. Und doch stört es ihm nicht zu Ardus, and yet that does not interfere to the unity. Dan Zetman as that is be'emes miyuchad, then you can see that he's really united, because even when there is an opposite matter, he still stays strong. In dem Gufa seine Veranzweifane. But how do you stay strong when you face this shnias, this situation? How do you face that? Either by totally ignoring the other mitzias, or by turning that mitzias around, that mitzias also recognizes the oneness of Hashem. In them Gufas and Faranz ve'evan. Here too, you have two ways. Aleph, number one, it is mevatel the mitzias ha'hofchi. Ha'hofchi, you negate the opposite existence. He totally doesn't consider it. And base number two, and mach the mitzias gufa akeli zu ardus. So either you discount, you disregard the other mitzias, you don't let it interfere with you, you stay connected, or that you take the other mitzias and you turn it around and you make that also a vessel for the unity of Hashem. The Achdus in Zweiten Neufen, that unity in the second way to turn things around, is a tifere and emesere. It's a deeper and a more truthful one. B'shas men is nor mevatel the metzias of, is when you just negate the opposite existence. Is noch da metzias was is soiser umenaged zu Achdus. But then there still exists there is an existence that contradicts and opposes unity. Okay, you don't listen to it, you don't follow it, you don't give it any credence, you reject it, but rejecting it doesn't take it away, it's still there. You do not take that into consideration, you don't consider it. But when the unity penetrates to such an extent as jeder mitzius wird allein akeli zu Achdus, that every existence becomes a unity, a vessel for this unity. You change around the opposing. Then is as an emesa Achdus. Then it is a true unity. And this is the difference between Nisan, Iyar, and Sivan. Nisan is there is just unity, there's no opposing. Hashem reveals himself as Hashem by Mitzrayim. On Iyar, we battle, refine ourselves, Tzvira Soimer. And on Shavuos and Matan Torah, we take the opposition and we show that that itself is a keli to Elikos. Gimel, the Oibon der Monte, the right to know us, the above mentioned, the three movements, Zainin in the Drei Chodoshim, those are in the 3 months, Nisan, Iyar, and Sivan. Nisan is Chodesh Harisha. Nisan is the first, meaning that's unity. In Nisan is Yitzias Mitzrayim. In Nisan we go out of Egypt, Exodus of Egypt. Shanigla Aliyah Melech Malche Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then revealed the King of Kings HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Agilu Milmaila was Hot Kain Shaychus Nitzumata. That's a revelation of above that has no connection to below. Just there is nothing else, just Hashem reveals himself. And Kibarach Ha'am, the people run away when in Mitzrayim. Menat läuft von alles man klappt sich zu Elokus. You run from everything and you stick to godliness. That's the month of Nisan. Iyar is Chodesh Hasheni. Iyar is the second. From ganzen Chodesh zählt man Sfiras Omer. The entire month of Iyar you count the Omer, which is Birur Hamidus the Nefesh HaBahamis. That's sorting out the emotion of the animal soul. When Hotsu Ton mit Mata, Shnius, that means you're dealing with the law, you're dealing with secondaries, you're dealing with the world, you're dealing with Nefesh HaBahamis. But you, Umanis does Mevarer, and you sort it out. So you don't listen to it. The Metzias is aber noch alza Metzias nitalakus. But while you sort it out, but that's not godly, it still remains an entity, which is not godliness. Das ist euch der Remes in dem Namen von Chodesh Iyar. That's why this is also the hint. The month of Iyar is Rosh Tevis Avram Yitzchok Yaakov Rachel. It spells Iyar, which is the Daled Ragla Hamerkova. Those are the 4 legs of the chariot. Was the Inyan Hamerkova, the idea of Merkova, as mentioned before, with regards to mitzvahs, is not bittel zum Reichem. It's a subjugation to the rider, but it did not become one. So you're mevarer the Nefesh HaBahamis, but it hasn't become one with the Reichem. Sivan is the Chodesh for Matan Torah, Chodesh HaShlishi. Sivan is the month when Torah was given, the 3rd month. You take these 2, Milo and Mata. You take Nisan and Iyar, the top and the lower level. And you make up a 3rd aspect, which is higher than the 2 of them. The true unity and the true inclusion of Elokus, which is Torah. Torah includes you become one, so that there is no other mitzias, but inclusion. Everything is included in godliness. Dalet. The far is Torah gegeben. That's why Torah was given on the 3rd month. While the inyan from Torah is yichud, because the idea of Torah is unity. When you do a mitzvah, Torah is unity. When you do a mitzvah, is mentake bebatel degen mitzias. You take negate your own entity, your own existence. So leave the mitzvah to do the mitzvah, because the mitzvah men werd ober nit a zach mit dir. You don't become one with the mitzvah. Aber in Torah. But when we talk about Torah, wird der Seichel von Menschen verengzigt mit der Chochmah und dem Rotzen von dem Ebersten. So then the intellect of the person, his brain, becomes united with the wisdom and the will of Hashem. Das is the inyan for Shlishi. That's the idea of 3, the 3rd month. And nehmt sein Seichel, that you take your intellect, that's the matter, together mit Chochmos shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, with the wisdom of Hashem, which is the Maila. Und von sei beiden macht a dritte Zach. He makes it a 3rd matter. He comprehends Torah. Hashem and his brain become one by him comprehending the Torah. It becomes Kul Echad one. Das is euch was Moshe kibel Torah Sinai. That's why Moshe, the Torah came from Sinai. Meaning Davke b'chodesh hashlishi. Mitzvahs seinen gegeben geworden euch b'mora. Mitzvahs were given also b'mora, because that's not the ultimate unity. That's only Merkava. But Torah is Sinai Davke. Torah comes from Sinai Shlishi. But why Sinai? Well, the inyan from Sinai is the mochich mekol Torayim. Sinai is the lowest of all mountains. So a mountain is an entity. And yet this is an entity, but it's the lowest of all the harim. Was that he's nidriker from Allenberg. He's lower than all mountains. It says Yichud Beis HaHapochim. That is the union. That's the fusion of the two opposites. It is a mountain, and yes, it's the level of humility. And that Yichud is Nesgale geworden in Torah Davke. That unity has been revealed Davke in Torah. This is Mesichas Shabbos Parshas Baharu B'Chakosai in Tofshin Chai.